Most people don't realize they're doing it. There is a silent behavior that runs beneath nearly every conversation, every decision, and every moment of tension. It seems harmless, polite, even considerate. But it is slowly eroding something essential inside of you. You explain yourself constantly. You justify your choices. You defend your feelings. You rationalize your boundaries. You preemptively soften your words so no one misunderstands you, so no one judges you, so no one walks away. And with every explanation, you give away a piece of your power. This is not about communication. This is about something far deeper. Something most people carry their entire lives without ever naming it. Carl Gustav Jung identified a fundamental truth about human psychology. He understood that the psyche is divided between the mask we present to the world, what he called the persona, and the true self that exists beneath it. For Jung, individuation, the process of becoming whole, required integrating these parts. It required learning to exist without the constant need for external validation. When you compulsively explain yourself, you are not communicating. You are fragmenting. You are performing. You are asking the world to validate a self you have not yet claimed. This behavior doesn't begin in adulthood. It begins in childhood, in moments so subtle they barely register as wounds. A child expresses excitement. The parent says, "Don't be so dramatic." A child shares fear. The parent says, "You're overreacting." A child states a preference. The parent says, "Why would you want that? That doesn't make sense." Over time, the child learns something devastating. They learn that their inner experience is not inherently valid. That feelings must be justified. That preferences must be explained. That simply being is not enough. The internalized message is clear: you are only acceptable when you can prove you are acceptable. This belief transforms into a lifelong pattern. Every choice becomes a case to be argued. Every emotion becomes evidence to be presented. Every boundary becomes a position to be defended in an invisible courtroom where everyone else is the judge and you are always on trial. You explain why you're tired, why you can't attend, why you feel hurt, why you need space, why you prefer this over that, why you made the choice you made. Not because anyone asked for an explanation, but because somewhere deep inside, you believe you owe one. And the tragedy is this: the more you explain, the less people respect your words. Because explanation always implies doubt. It implies that your position is negotiable. That if the other person doesn't accept your reasoning, you might reconsider. You might comply. You might surrender. But what are you really afraid of? You are afraid that if you do not explain, people will misunderstand you. They will think you're cold, difficult, selfish, unreasonable. You are afraid they will judge you, abandon you, reject you. So you explain. You soften. You justify. You make yourself digestible. But this is not connection. This is appeasement. It is an attempt to control how others perceive you. It is an exhausting performance designed to protect you from the one thing you fear most: being seen as you are, without defense, and being rejected anyway. The irony is profound. In trying to prevent rejection, you reject yourself first. You preemptively dismantle your own authority. You hand others the power to decide whether your feelings are valid, whether your choices are reasonable, whether you are worthy of respect. And this comes at a price. Gradually, you lose touch with your own internal authority. You stop knowing what you think, what you feel, and what you want because you have trained yourself to filter everything through an imagined external audience. You no longer ask, "What do I need?" You ask, "How can I explain this in a way that makes sense to them?" You no longer say, "This is what I'm doing." You say, "I hope you understand why I'm doing this." Your life becomes a performance. Every conversation is theater. Every decision is a script you must rehearse so that it sounds justified, so that it appears reasonable, so that no one can find fault. You stop living for yourself. You start living for the projected judgment of others. And the worst part? These people may not even be judging you. You are doing it to yourself. You have internalized the courtroom. You have become both the defendant and the prosecutor. Your energy drains. Your presence weakens. Your voice loses weight. Because when you constantly explain, you signal that your position is uncertain. That you need permission. That you are asking for approval rather than stating reality. And people feel this. They may not consciously recognize it, but energetically, they sense it. And they respond accordingly. They push back more. They question more. They expect more explanations. Because you have taught them that your boundaries are negotiable. As long as you require others to understand you before you honor yourself, there is no integrity. Because integrity is not about being understood. It is about being coherent. It is about your inner reality and your outer expression being aligned, regardless of whether anyone else approves. This is the shift that changes everything. When you finally stop explaining yourself, something fundamental changes. Not just in how others treat you, but in how you inhabit your own life. There is a shift in your internal authority. A reclamation of presence. A return to the self that existed before you learned to doubt it. You stop asking for permission to feel what you feel. You stop justifying your preferences. You stop defending your boundaries as if they are up for debate. And in that silence, in that refusal to perform, something powerful emerges. In the next part of this video, we're going to explore exactly what happens when you stop explaining. How people respond. What shifts inside of you. And why this one change can alter the entire trajectory of your relationships, your work, and your sense of self. But first, let's go deeper into the mechanics of this pattern. Let's look at how this plays out in real situations. You cancel plans. Immediately, you feel the need to explain why. You weren't feeling well. Work was overwhelming. You've been drained. You list reasons, pile them up, hope they form a convincing argument. But notice what's underneath that impulse. You are not simply communicating. You are seeking absolution. You are asking the other person to agree that your reason is good enough. And if they don't, if they seem disappointed or annoyed, you feel guilty. You explain more. You apologize. You promise to make it up. This is the behavior of someone who does not believe they have the right to their own choices. Now imagine the alternative. You cancel plans. You say, "I won't be able to make it." You don't justify. You don't perform emotional labor to make the other person feel better about your decision. You simply state reality. What happens? Sometimes, nothing. The person says, "Okay, no problem." Because healthy people do not require you to justify your existence. But sometimes, the person pushes back. They want to know why. They want an explanation. And this is where the real test occurs. Because in that moment, you will feel the pull. The childhood conditioning will rise up. The fear of being seen as difficult, as selfish, as unreasonable. And you will feel the urge to comply. To explain. To justify. But if you can sit with that discomfort, if you can hold your ground without defending it, you teach yourself something revolutionary, that you are allowed to take up space without earning it. If this content resonates with you, if you recognize this pattern in your own life, consider subscribing to this channel. This is the kind of psychology we explore here. Not surface-level advice, but the deep patterns that shape how we move through the world. Here is what most people misunderstand about silence. They think it is passive. Withholding. Cold. They think that refusing to explain is the same as refusing to communicate. But silence is not absence. It is presence. It is the refusal to dilute your truth with unnecessary justification. It is the decision to let your actions speak, to let your boundaries exist without apology, to trust that the right people will respect you without needing a dissertation on why you deserve respect. When you stop explaining, you stop negotiating your reality. You stop asking others to approve of your inner world before you honor it yourself. And this creates a profound shift in your relationships. Because explanation is often manipulation in disguise. Not malicious manipulation, but manipulation nonetheless. When you over-explain, you are trying to control the other person's response. You are trying to engineer their understanding so they cannot be upset, cannot be disappointed, cannot judge you. But this is not respect. This is emotional management. It is the belief that you are responsible for how others feel about your choices. And that belief will destroy you. The truth is, you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions. You are responsible for being honest, for being clear, for honoring your own needs. And if someone cannot accept that, if they require you to justify your existence, then they are not safe for you. Let's examine another common scenario. Someone criticizes you. They question your choice, your behavior, your perspective. And immediately, you feel defensive. You want to explain. You want to show them they're wrong, that they misunderstood, that you had good reasons. But pause. Ask yourself, why do you feel the need to defend yourself to someone who has already made up their mind? This impulse to explain in the face of criticism is not about clarity. It is about fear. It is the fear that their perception of you will become reality. That if you do not correct them, if you do not justify yourself, their judgment will define you. But here is the truth, their judgment already exists. And no amount of explanation will change it. Because people who criticize you are not looking for understanding. They are looking for confirmation of the narrative they have already constructed. When you explain yourself to someone who has judged you, you are not defending yourself. You are begging them to reconsider. You are giving them power over your sense of self. And this is a losing game. An integrated person does not explain excessively. Not because they are withholding, but because they are coherent. Their inner reality and outer expression are aligned. They do not need to justify what is true for them, because they are not at war with themselves. When you stop explaining, you stop fragmenting. You stop dividing yourself into the version that exists privately and the version you present publicly. You become whole. And that wholeness is felt by everyone around you. People often describe this as presence, as magnetism, as authority. But what it really is integration. It is the energy of someone who is not asking for permission to be themselves. They do not beg for understanding. They do not perform for approval. They occupy space with quiet certainty. They state their truth without apology. They set boundaries without justification. And they let the consequences unfold without trying to control them. Everything changes when you stop explaining yourself. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You stop living in reaction to projected judgment. You stop managing other people's perceptions. You stop giving away your power in exchange for conditional acceptance. And you start living from the inside out. Where your choices are yours. Where your feelings are valid simply because you feel them. Where your boundaries are non-negotiable simply because you set them. This is individuation. This is wholeness. This is what it means to reclaim yourself. Now I want to ask you something. What is the explanation you repeat most often? What is the justification you give over and over, the one you've memorized because you've had to defend it so many times? Write it down in the comments. Not for me. For you. Because naming the pattern is the first step in breaking it. What are you still explaining? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped? If this video shifted something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Click the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content like this. And watch the next video, where we explore what happens when you stop apologizing for taking up space. The work continues. And you are not alone in it.